Ever wondered what people in the Middle Ages ate for dessert? Can you imagine a medieval birthday cake? Did knights chow down on cookies after a long day of jousting? Number 10. The secret sweet life of medieval folk. Did medieval people actually enjoy sweets? Absolutely. Despite what you might think about the Middle Ages being all gruel and bland porridge, medieval folks had a serious sweet tooth. Sugar wasn't widely available for common people. It was an expensive imported luxury, but honey was everywhere. Beekeeping was a common practice across medieval Europe, and honey served as the primary sweetener for most of the population. Imagine living in a world where the sweetest thing most people ever tasted was a spoonful of raw honey or a honey-sweetened treat. For special occasions, bakers would go all out creating elaborate sweet concoctions that would impress even today's pastry chefs. Medieval nobility who could afford imported sugar treated it almost like a spice or medicine. Records from royal kitchens show that sugar was stored alongside exotic spices and used sparingly in special dishes. As sugar became slightly more available in the later Middle Ages, artistic chefs would craft elaborate subtleties, decorative sugar sculptures that were displayed at banquets before being eaten. Think of them as the medieval version of those amazing cake creations you see on baking competition shows today. Number 9. Not just any flour will do. Think all medieval bread was the same rough, dark stuff. Think again. Just like today, medieval society had its own version of food snobbery. The color and refinement of your bread directly reflected your social status. White bread made from finely sifted wheat flour was the privilege of the wealthy. The whiter your bread, the higher your status. Poorer folk made do with maslin bread made from mixed grains like rye and wheat, or even bread made from barley, oats, or whatever grain was available. The medieval miller held surprising power in society, controlling the crucial process of turning grain into usable flour. Hand grinding was backbreaking work, so water and windmills were technological marvels that transformed food production. Some lords even required peasants to use their mills exclusively, charging fees for the service, a medieval monopoly that generated serious income. Bakers developed specialized knowledge about different grain properties. Wheat made the finest bread but was expensive. Rye created darker, denser loaves but was more affordable and stored well. Barley and oats worked for flatbreads but didn't rise well with yeast. This knowledge wasn't just culinary, it was survival information passed down through generations. Number 8. Pies not just for dessert. Did medieval people put literally everything in pies? Pretty much. The medieval pie was essentially the original to-go meal container. Before the era of Tupperware and take-out boxes, the sturdy pastry shell served as both cooking vessel and portable container. These weren't the flaky, delicate crusts we prize today. Medieval coffins, literally coffins, were thick, sturdy shells designed to hold anything from meats and vegetables to fruits and custards. For working people, hand pies provided portable meals that stayed relatively protected from dirt and could be easily carried to the fields. Historical records from England describe pastry containers filled with eggs, bacon, fruits, and various meats. The pastry itself was often so tough it wasn't meant to be eaten, just the contents inside. Wealthier households created elaborate multi-compartment pies where completely different dishes, like fish and meat, cooked simultaneously in the same pastry container but remained separate, a medieval version of the TV dinner. Some decorative pies even featured live animals that would burst out when the pie was cut open at the table, purely for entertainment value. Think birds flying out of a pie, a spectacle recorded at several medieval royal feasts. Number 7. The religious connection to baking. Did you know that monks were some of the best bakers in medieval times? Religious establishments like monasteries and abbeys were centers of baking innovation. Monks and nuns maintained detailed recipe collections and had the literacy, time, and resources to experiment with baking techniques. Many monasteries became famous for particular baked specialties that they would sell to support themselves. The church calendar dramatically influenced what and when people baked. During the approximately 150 fast days throughout the year, including the 40 days of Lent, Catholics were forbidden from eating animal products like eggs, butter, and lard, key ingredients in most rich baked goods. This led to creative adaptations using almond milk, vegetable oils, and fruit-based binding agents. In some regions, people would bake massive quantities of rich goods just before Lent began, using up prohibited ingredients, the origin of traditions like Fat Tuesday and its famous pancakes and pastries. Special feast days throughout the year had their own traditional baked goods, creating a rhythm of seasonal specialties that communities looked forward to. Hot cross buns for Easter, soul cakes for All Saints' Day, and various Saints' Day specialties marked the year's progression through special baked treats. Number 6. The spice roots' influence on medieval desserts. Could medieval desserts actually be more flavorful than modern ones? Surprisingly, yes. While modern Western desserts often focus primarily on sweetness, medieval baked goods frequently featured complex spice combinations that would rival today's most creative chefs. Traders risked their lives along dangerous routes from Asia and the Middle East to bring cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, cardamom, and many other spices to European markets. These exotic spices were status symbols as much as flavorings. Recipe manuscripts from noble households show liberal use of expensive imported spices in sweet treats. A popular medieval spice mixture called powder douce, sweet powder, typically contains some combination of cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg, sugar, and sometimes saffron, creating a flavor profile that would seem at home in modern chai or pumpkin spice. Court records show that King Henry III of England ordered 500 pounds of cinnamon and 250 pounds of ginger for Christmas celebrations in 1247 quantities that would seem excessive even by today's standards, but demonstrate how valued these flavors were at medieval feasts. Number 5. Preservation through pastry. How did people keep food from spoiling without refrigeration? Medieval bakers were also food preservation experts. In an era without refrigeration, creative baking methods helped extend the life of precious ingredients. Fruit preserves cooked with honey or sugar created long-lasting sweet treats. Nuts and dried fruits were baked into dense cakes that could last for months, providing vital nutrition during winter when fresh food was scarce. The famous fruitcake has its origins in these preservation techniques, dried fruits preserved in alcohol and baked into a dense, long-lasting cake. Medieval households would make these substantial cakes after autumn harvests to preserve fruits for the winter months. The high sugar and alcohol content created an environment where harmful bacteria couldn't easily grow. Some wealthy households even maintained special cake rooms where these preservative-baked goods were stored. Pies with thick pastry crusts and heavily spiced fillings served a similar function. The pastry sealed out air, while spices, many of which have natural antimicrobial properties, helped prevent spoilage of the contents. Number 4. Baking as medicine. Would you believe your doctor might prescribe cookies? Medieval people would. The line between food and medicine was blurry in medieval times, and many baked goods were created specifically for their perceived health benefits. Medical treatises from the period prescribed specific pastries, breads, and sweet treats for various ailments. Gingerbread, for instance, wasn't just a tasty treat but was considered a warming food that helped digestion and prevented colds. Medieval medical theory followed the concept of humoral balance, the idea that health required balancing 4 bodily humors that could be hot, cold, wet, or dry. Foods, including baked goods, were classified according to these properties and prescribed to balance a person's constitution. A cold illness might be treated with hot spice cakes. Digestive problems might call for thin, crisp wafers believed to absorb excess stomach moisture. Pregnant women were often advised to eat specific seed cakes thought to strengthen the womb. Many of these medicinal recipes were carefully guarded secrets, passed down through families or kept in monastery infirmaries. When a noble household traveled, specialized bakers would accompany them to ensure the Lord's health was maintained through proper medicinal baking. Number 3. The original fast food, street vendor baking. Did medieval cities have food trucks? Sort of. Urban streets in medieval cities bustled with food vendors, and baked goods were among the most popular quick meals for busy city dwellers. Street vendors selling hot pastries, pies, and wafers were the medieval equivalent of our fast food culture. Contemporary accounts describe the calls of vendors hawking their specialties through crowded medieval streets. These street foods varied by region. In London, hot penny pies filled with meat or fruit provided quick meals for workers. In Paris, thin, crispy wafers cooked on special irons were popular street snacks. Venice had specialty cookie sellers near the main thoroughfares. Most fascinating is how these street foods crossed cultural boundaries. Recipes and techniques spread along trade routes, creating early fusion foods as vendors adapted concepts from travelers' descriptions. Many vendors specialized in particular baked goods, developing distinctive recipes that became associated with specific streets or districts. Some vendors became so renowned for their specialties that their locations became meeting points. Meet me by the wafer seller at the corner of Bread Street would be perfectly clear directions in medieval London. Number 2, baking technology, more advanced than you'd think. Convinced medieval baking was primitive, you'd be surprised. Medieval bakers developed sophisticated techniques and equipment that laid the groundwork for modern baking. Professional bakeries in towns and cities operated large clay or brick ovens that could bake dozens of loaves simultaneously. These ovens, often communal in villages, represented significant community investments and were engineering achievements that maintained steady temperatures for hours. Professional guilds controlled the baking trade in most European cities, maintaining strict quality standards. Becoming a master baker required years of apprenticeship, learning to judge dough consistency by feel and oven temperature without modern thermometers. Guild regulations often specified exactly how much each type of bread should weigh and its minimum quality standards. Cheating customers could result in serious punishments. Some cities had a punishment device called the cucking stool, where fraudulent bakers would be publicly dunked in water. The guilds also controlled innovation, registering new recipes and techniques as valuable intellectual property. By the late medieval period, specialized bakeries had emerged, some focusing just on fancy pastries, others on bread, and still others on medicinal baked goods, creating a sophisticated culinary landscape in larger European cities. Number 1, the hidden history of women bakers. Did women run the medieval baking world? The history books might not say so, but archaeology and household records tell a different story. While official bakers' guilds were often male-dominated, the everyday reality of baking fell heavily to women. Most household bread and baked goods came from the hands of mothers, daughters, and female servants working at home hearths or communal ovens. Archaeological evidence from medieval kitchens shows that baking tools were primarily associated with women's work areas. In many regions, widows of bakers were among the few women officially permitted to continue their husbands' trades independently. Records from several European cities show these women maintaining successful bakeries and even training apprentices. Some women found economic independence through specialized baking. Court records mention women selling cakes and pastries at markets or from home workshops, creating economic opportunities outside formal guild structures. Nunneries developed their own baking traditions, with some becoming renowned for particular specialties. Several still existing European pastries trace their origins to medieval nuns who created and preserved these recipes. Even royal and noble kitchens, despite being headed by male master cooks, relied heavily on women for the daily production of bread and pastries that kept grand households running. Did medieval bakers know they were creating food traditions that would last for centuries? Could they have imagined that some of their humble recipes would evolve into the sophisticated pastries we enjoy today? What other baking secrets might still be hiding in dusty medieval manuscripts, waiting to be rediscovered by modern bakers?